The Labour government's early release scheme was meant to solve overcrowded prisons, but instead it has unleashed a dangerous new problem. Former prisoners released without proper support are deliberately reoffending just to avoid homelessness. The streets are becoming riskier, and the public is paying the price. Is this incompetence from Keir Starmer's government creating more criminals, or are they simply too blind to see the chaos they're causing? Today, we expose how this policy failure is putting every British citizen at risk. Please remember to like, subscribe, and turn on bell notifications to support our channel. We appreciate each and every one of you.
So basically, since I've been released from custody, I've been living on the streets, mate. I did find somewhere to stay, but they were heroin users, so I ended up back on heroin. I ended up then...
And how long had you been clean?
For about 3 years off the heroin.
So coming out of prison was the thing that got you back on heroin?
Well, coming out of prison and having nowhere to stay, yeah. Before you knew it, I had a habit again, Jason. And before you knew it then, I was shoplifting then to fund my habit.
For years, UK prisons have been bursting at the seams, and Labour's response has been to let prisoners out early. In theory, this should have eased the burden. But instead of helping these individuals reintegrate into society, Labour has thrown them to the wolves. With no job prospects, no housing, and no support system, these ex-prisoners are left on the streets, where desperation quickly takes over. It's not surprising that some of them see reoffending as their only way out. But what does this mean for the rest of us? With more offenders roaming the streets, isn't the public the real victim here? Reports from Sky News show a chilling reality. Prisoners are intentionally committing crimes again because prison offers them something they can't find on the outside: a bed, food, and shelter. Think about that for a second. Keir Starmer's government has allowed the situation to get so bad that former criminals see jail as a better option than life in the UK. One former inmate was quoted saying, "It's safer behind bars than sleeping on the street." These aren't just isolated cases. We're seeing an alarming trend of repeat offenders going back to crime, and Labour's scheme is directly to blame. But it's not just about their lives. What about ours? How many more dangerous offenders will be put back onto the streets in the name of prison reform? Labour's early release scheme wasn't just poorly managed, it was irresponsible. Keir Starmer has failed, not only in reducing crime, but in creating an even bigger problem for the public. By flooding the streets with people who have little choice but to return to crime, Starmer is essentially making the streets more dangerous. Labour's lack of post-release support is shocking. Where is the plan to house these individuals? Where is the mental health care that's desperately needed? Without these essentials, the only thing being released is chaos. The public has a right to be concerned. What kind of leadership allows criminals back on the streets with zero safety nets? And let's be clear, this isn't just a problem for ex-prisoners. This is a direct threat to the British public. With more offenders on the streets, crime rates are bound to rise, and public safety is being thrown out the window. Every day, more vulnerable people are being released without adequate housing or rehabilitation. These individuals, desperate and with nothing to lose, are more likely to engage in petty theft, burglary, and even violent crime. Labour's failure to manage this properly doesn't just put these individuals at risk, it puts all of us at risk. Is this what the British people deserve? What's worse is that this so-called solution has created a vicious cycle. Prisons, which were supposed to see relief, are now being flooded with repeat offenders. The very people released to ease overcrowding are coming back, and it's a costly, never-ending loop. Not only is it a failure of policy, but it's also a monumental waste of taxpayer money. And as reoffending rises, the Labour government seems to have no answers, no contingency plan. Keir Starmer is letting the British people down, and the consequences are playing out right before our eyes. The safety of the public is being sacrificed for political expediency.
The Chief Inspector of Probation says having a home is a huge factor in keeping people out of jail.
If people do not have stable accommodation at the point of release, they are more likely to be recalled to custody as a result of a breach of their licence conditions, or indeed to reoffend. So,
is it the biggest factor in reoffending?
I mean, I've got to say, at the point of release, I think it is probably the most critically important.
Labour's prisoner release scheme is a disaster, plain and simple. Keir Starmer promised a safer, fairer society, but what has he delivered? More offenders on the streets, more crime, and more fear for the average citizen. How many more must reoffend before the government takes action? How long will Labour continue to sacrifice public safety in the name of a broken policy? It's time for accountability. What do you think? Let us know in the comments. As always, stay informed, stay engaged, and make sure that your voice is heard.